we've not spoken about Ferrari at all, which is such a shame because like last season, there was so much hope and now...
And so much despair.
Yeah. But it's like, we're not speaking about them because I don't think they're, even next season, I don't think they'll be a contender anyway, because I think there's going to be a mad, like, force that happens at Ferrari. I feel like Sainz will go. When's his contract up? Do you know when Carlos Sainz's contract?
I think it's the end of next year.
Okay.
They're talking about Alex 2025, aren't they?
Is Leclerc's contract?
There's been rumours that Fred's shot down, but there's been rumours that they're thinking about Alex to replace Checo, to replace Sainz at the end of 24.
When's Leclerc's contract up, by the way? Is it still the end of this year? Or?
I'm not sure. They gave him a long one, didn't they? But that was a while ago. Like when he signed, they gave him like a 5-year deal. I think it might be the end of 25, maybe.
Oh, shit. Okay,
sure.
So
might not be.
See, Ferrari for me is like...
I'm bugging.
Going back to that little analogy I did of like, Toto being this, and so I think Freddie's like that. I don't want to say bumbling idiot. He's the guy that just doesn't know what's going on. I feel like he's trying to keep a straight face, but I don't think he knows what's going on with that Ferrari. Genuinely,
but I mean, I don't like
drivers or engine or anything.
But the upper management of Ferrari just can't help but put their noses in. I think that's the biggest problem. It's interference
It's just not bothered. Like, no offense,
the people at the top, because Toto is given full reign.
Yep.
And like Daimler just leave him to it, and Ineos, and he owns a third of that team, so they just leave Toto to it.
Yeah.
Red Bull just leave Christian to it in terms of the running and the operating of the team. All these top teams, Ferrari, the upper management just can't help themselves, and I think that's a big part of why it doesn't.
Too many cooks, mate.
Fred replacing Binotto, I don't think I wasn't going to change things immediately. I'm not massively surprised that things haven't.
Do you think people are chipping in because they don't believe in Fred as much?
I just think that's Ferrari. I think they've always done it.
That's Ferrari.
Yeah. Like, since Jean Todt, Ross Brawn, like that era kind of moved on. Like, I think that's always been an issue.
Isn't it? Because they were so well managed back then. Well, relatively speaking.
But then, like in terms of drivers at Ferrari, I don't see Leclerc being a legacy Ferrari driver. No, I feel like if Mercedes ever sniff around him, he's gone.
Red Bull have been sniffing around him as well.
I don't see him at Red Bull.
Yeah, that looks weird.
I just don't see him. I just feel like
I photoshopped it. It looks really weird.
It's weird. I just don't see it happening as well, because
see him a Mercedes though.
The only thing is, like, he tries to battle Max. Okay, last season it was tight. Bahrain. I remember watching Bahrain last season. I was sick. I was like, come on,
yeah, man. Such a good
I just don't think he'd be a number 2 driver.
I agree with that.
And that's half the job as well. Coming to terms with the fact you are number 2 driver. That's why I think Lando would be very good at Red Bull, because he's a number 1 driver at McLaren. Great. But being number 2 at Red Bull, and not just, being number 2, learning everything. Because if you're behind Max, you get to learn what Max does in a car, which I think he can keep up to. Like, so not only are you learning from Max what he does, you're learning how to get round him. This is what I'm thinking. If you're following someone or working alongside someone, you're going to find their flaws quicker than you find all of their praise. I guarantee.
But what I would say, why would Red Bull invite that? Why wouldn't they just keep a number 2 alongside Max?
It's about having the fastest driver. This is what people don't get. Oh, Max owns Red Bull. Max is Red Bull. No, he's not. The fastest driver is what Red Bull are about. That Helmut Marko is, I don't want to say lunatic, but he is all about the fastest driver. And it just so happens it's Max Verstappen at the moment. Maybe put Alex Albon in that car. Okay, cool. I don't think he's ever going back. Like, I think all them rules will be shut down. But imagine if you put Alex Albon in that, and
I can't do that again. I can't do 2020 again.
Hypothetically, right? You put Alex Albon, whoever in, and they go faster than Max. Do you not think that Red Bull would then cater towards a faster driver and say, okay, he's doing this in this car, but if we did this, that would suit him a little bit better. He'll get a second here, half a second there. It's about the fastest driver. Okay, Mercedes, I think it's a Lewis Hamilton thing, because not only is he an amazing driver, he's a great poster boy for Mercedes, and he's part of the family. Red Bull's not a family; they're a business.
I disagree.
Do you think?
I think Max is so entrenched into Red Bull. They support that. So Max has got his own race team that he started, Verstappen.com Racing, which is Red Bull powered, partnered. I went to Austria. And the sea of Verstappen fans, it's all Max. I feel like, in a different way, but I think Mercedes has this super close connection with Lewis. They've supported him his entire career.
Yeah.
Back when he was karting, very early doors, Mercedes picked him up. McLaren Mercedes when he was there, all that. I do think that there is similarities in the strength of relationship between Max and Red Bull. I do think there are similarities. I don't think it's... I don't think it's the case of they would just bin Max off, because I just think Max is having seen that firsthand. I mean, you've been Zandvoort as well.
Yeah, fucking hell.
The support for Max and how Red Bull, with their marketing, and the fact that Max was the first Dutch world champion. He was like the youngest to win a race ever. They hadn't had they had a Dawn Boss, they had a couple of drivers towards the back, Dutch drivers, but the convergence around Max is so strong. I actually think that adds to it. I think Max is the best, but also I think that as well.
Absolutely, but at the same time, I think the board meeting between Helmut Marko and Toto Wolff is completely different. Toto Wolff's like, oh, do you know what? We can't get rid of Lewis. Oh, he's like a son to me, whatever. Helmut would be like, okay, who's fastest? Okay, it's got to be done. That's how I think. It's not necessarily about being part of the family. Because Danny Ricciardo, he was part of the family. He was a Red Bull boy, and they let him go. If they didn't want him to go so much, they would have clawed him in. How many times do you think Lewis Hamilton has said to Toto, do you know what? Fuck this, I'm going Ferrari. No, don't do it, Lewis. Don't. That's that family vibe. Red Bull were like, whatever. This on paper, we need to make it work. That's literally it. Whether he's ingrained in it or not. I think their mentalities are completely different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear it. I do. I think the one thing I will say is Max feels unbeatable.
Feels untouchable.
Yeah, so I know it is Max in a Red Bull and the Red Bull is so strong, but I genuinely look at the grid and I don't actually see anyone that would beat Max across an entire season at this moment in time. In 2 years, maybe very different. You've got George Russell who's a new driver. You've got Lando who's obviously getting better and better. There's a lot of young talent on the grid right now. But at this moment in time, I feel like anyone that Red Bull go for, they're looking and going, well, it's ultimately you're a second driver. Yep. So I don't think they have that to worry about in the sense of rumbling the culture or it still being Max's team. But it would be interesting to see Lando in there.
Yeah, but who knows? But this is the thing. What if? That's the best thing about F1. It's okay, what we said earlier, Danny Ricciardo. What if he did beat Yuki? What if he did go for a seat at the front for next season? That's the best thing about Formula 1, because there is a lot of what ifs. What if Lando Norris signs at the end of his contract and out-qualifies Verstappen or beats him to a podium? What if? What happens then? The space-time continuum just flips up and Lando Norris is now the poster boy of Red Bull. That's what's going to happen, because Red Bull are all about staying current. How many energy drinks have been and gone? Let's think about it in terms of energy drinks. But you're always going to have... I've got one under the desk, bruv. It's here. Yeah. It's there. It's
I've
here.
got the merch.
Yeah. So they stay current.
We'll drink one today, probably.
You know what I mean? So you got to think of it like that. What if?
Okay, you say what ifs. All right. What if this McLaren pace that we've seen the last two races isn't a flash in the pan? What if they are seriously back? Because Lando's number one at that team, right?
Yeah.
So if he went to Red Bull, he would be, at least in the short term, at least number two to Max.
Yeah.
Are we saying that, if McLaren do deliver on this and become part of this chasing group that are converging on Red Bull, maybe next year, almost, they've set their sights on 2025 being the year that they can fight for race wins. Do we think this is a flash in the pan from McLaren, or do we think they are serious now? Have they shown enough in these last two races? It's two races.
Yeah, no, it's only two, so it's really hard to tell.
And we're not giving Piastri any credit, because I think he was the highest scoring rookie since Hamilton, something like that. So
yeah.
P4. Yeah.
I really hope.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I really hope it's not a flash in the pan.